Our next presentation will be for Velocin-N. Presenting for Velocin-N will be Dr. John Wilson. John is going to do two presentations for us this morning. First this one, and then another one which I'll come up in between and describe. Velocin-N is a new enzyme that enables faster, more sensitive, and more selective detection of proteins in mass spectrometers. John?
Good morning, everyone. How do you know? If you can't hear me, tell me and I'll talk even louder. Okay, I'm a postdoc at Cold Spring Harbor. I've been there 2 years. I'm in the laboratory, Darrell Pappas Laboratory of Mass Spectrometry and Protein Analysis. We are both inventors. I have developed multiple technologies within the capacity of Cold Spring Harbor and also outside of it, but I'm starting with Cold Spring Harbor hat. I have two prototypes which have been conceived of and reduced to practice and are now installed in our laboratory. Velocin-N, that Neil said enables better, faster protein ID, is the first. In my 7 minutes, I'm going to try to give you guys an overview of proteomics, what I do in less than a minute, explain why Velocin is better, go to business, including market and competition, and then present a strategy to bring this into researchers' hands. If I go too fast, let me know and ask any questions. Yeah. Okay, proteomics. Proteins are, in mice and bacteria and people, the micro machines and the microstructure that make us live. Our hair is protein, the enzymes that digest our food is protein, and proteins are what go awry in a disease. If you have a genetic disease, the problem is not actually the gene, the problem is that your gene doesn't make a protein, it's the protein where disease happens. Drugs, the majority of them work on proteins, and this was my original reason for looking at proteins. I want to make an impact, and genetics is sort of a way that it's removed. Unfortunately, proteins are kind of like a football field when you have a ruler that's a foot long. We have to make them fit within the physics of the machines that we use, called mass spectrometers, and to do that we have little chopping enzymes called proteases. Velocin-N is a protease. It is obligatory for mass spec analysis, and it is a consumable tool. You do not have an option to reuse it. You put it in, and it's gone. There are three benefits to Velocin over current technology. First, it's faster. Velocin is a thermostable enzyme. As you guys know from just watching a pot boil, the water moves faster. Enzymes move faster at higher temperature. We reduce from an overnight incubation, which in biochemistry speak means 18 hours, that incubation time, to somewhere between 2 and 6 hours, thus giving you up to a 900% faster throughput in your laboratory. When your machine is $500,000 to $1 million, you want that throughput to be as high as possible. You also want downtime to be minimal. It increases sensitivity and specificity, which I will show you visually in the next slide. And this was discovered by me and developed in Darrell Pappas' lab at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. How does Velocin work? So to put this in a visual image in your mind, imagine a football field composed of a very, very long picture, stained glass, let's say. You chop it up into little windows like this. That is what Velocin does, first of all. We make it even worse, though, because to actually understand the order and the picture of those pieces of glass, we start by destroying them in a mass spectrometer. We then put them back together. We then look for the pieces and put them back together. This is the information that we're looking at. And remember, this is done for each of the pieces. The state-of-the-art trypsin takes every pane. You can't see this, but let me go back. Trypsin is like down here. Each little individual piece of glass is shattered into at least 2 pieces. Velocin is like this. It gives you 1 piece. Obviously, if you have something small and you break it in even smaller pieces, your sensitivity goes down. And it gets more complex. This is a spectrum which is real from trypsin, the state-of-the-art. This is a spectrum from Velocin. And there's only a couple things you need to see. First of all, there's lots more fragments, and there's lots more peaks. The clarity of data is lower in this than it is in this. In addition, you can see we got all these little peaks. Well, if I take something small and split it in half or in 3, then our sensitivity goes down. The market. Mass spectrometry is a very large market, though I don't have a number for you. The number that I did get from my own personal research is that the largest producer of proteases for trypsin alone sells more than $20 million a year. It is single use, as I said. As far as the technology, patent filing, John, I hope will be up and coming. It is not easily rationally engineered. We know this by personal experience. In terms of the market, there's a first mover advantage and especially an inertia advantage for laboratories. If you have a lab and you have a reagent, you don't move on even if something's cheaper and better. No tools, other tools like this could be developed. Cold Spring Harbor owns it. If this technology is licensed to me, I am ready to manufacture it today. I have an 82 cubic foot production scale incubator ready to be fired up. If I were to sell this, how would I do this? I arrived at 3 a.m. from the American Society of Mass Spectrometry conference where I was presenting other research. It's 8,000 mass spec scientists getting together to do mass spec. There are other conferences. This is also part of my duty as a postdoc. I have personal contacts with Waters, Agilent, Thermo, Bruker, etc. These are the major manufacturers, and because it makes the machine work better and give better data, I don't think it would be a problem for them to send up 3 samples with each new machine. In addition, I have multiple collaborators and personal contacts who are lab hubs with thousands of collaborations, and usually you read literature and do something else. So there's also mailing lists available and YouTube, etc., etc. Scientists usually talk with themselves. As far as the competition, there are others. Promega is the biggest. With 80% of the market, that's the 20 million. It is faster, more selective, and more sensitive, and its clarity of data can save millions in R&D costs, because if you chase the wrong target, it's very expensive. As far as the management, there's me. You can see I did a lot of stuff as an undergrad. My PhD was at Rockefeller. I previously was at Silicon Valley, started doing cancer biomarker discovery with mass spec. My advisor is Dr. Daryl Papin, who has 76 hits on Google patents, and he has developed seminal core mass spec technologies that are used everywhere today. Everybody knows his name. We are inventors who invent as a function of solving real problems. In terms of the profitability, reagents are incredibly profitable. That's why the mass spec manufacturer, Thermo, which is the biggest, bought a company larger than itself, which does reagents. It's about $200 to buy a vial. It is about $20 including packing and shipping. I have those companies lined up, thus giving them a profit of about $180 per unit, with the caveat that marketing is going to be is going to reduce this depending on the level of marketing. First mover advantage is really important. I have a friend who makes trypsin better and cheaper. He makes he sells less than 200K a year at Promega's at 20 million, so we're 2 logs off from first mover advantage. In terms of financing, around 250K. Assume 30% of the maximum to begin, so you need about 5,000 units in stock, and you multiply that out. There you go. Marketing overhead 150K. And clarify your data.
Questions?
Oh, sorry.
Many of the companies that you see as candidate distributors have a vested interest in perpetuating the sale of trypsin.
They do. That's why I don't want to go to current protease manufacturers. You're right, they have a vested interest. Absolutely.
Okay,
What about the equipment manufacturers?
Oh, they don't have a vested interest. Velocin-N makes the machine work better.
All right.
Are there any mass specs that this won't work with, or will it work with all?
Every one of them.
Any other questions? Well, that's great. That's a wrap for Velocin.